Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Top 10 players for this Washington Huskies program heading into 2024. And as a college football fan, one of the more intriguing and exciting programs heading into the fall, having played for a national championship less than 6 months ago. Now you have a new head coach coming in Jedd Fisch, added a ton of new names to the transfer portal. Now you're heading into the Big Ten as well. Fired up to get into this top 10 list. I was watching a lot of football, getting ready for this episode, watching some FCS games. Jedd Fisch did a really nice job in the transfer portal, not only adding top-end talent, but a lot of depth to this program as well. And I think when you look at this team and when I started ranking these top 10 players, you start to understand that there's a reason that a lot of the sports books have this Washington Huskies win total sitting at 7.5 points. Yeah, I'm not going to get up here and say they're going to win a national championship in 2024, but I'm also saying that they are going to be extremely competitive in the Big Ten. Fired up to get into it. Before I do it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. And it's been a blast taking deep dives into all of these programs during the offseason. The amount of support you guys have shown the boys, it truly does mean a lot. And to the Washington Husky fans, it's been a blast talking this program on the recruiting trail in the transfer portal since Jedd Fisch has taken over. Can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, for the Washington fans, I would love to hear some feedback on this top 10 list. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start with some breakout players that I did not put in my top 10, but guys that I certainly am keeping an eye on in 2024. And I want to talk about former Michigan wide receiver Giles Jackson. Now, he's been with this program for a couple of years now, and you guys know I'm a Michigan fan. I am a massive Giles Jackson fan. And I think for a lot of people on the surface, it looks kind of weird having him as a breakout player going into year 6 of his college football career. Giles Jackson might be the ideal fit for this Jedd Fisch offense. You look at how Jedd Fisch wants to operate, especially in the passing attack, ball out quick to playmakers in space. You look at Giles Jackson, as much as he's been inconsistent at times during his collegiate career, and also just not having a ton of opportunity because of how good that wide receiver room was. Giles Jackson is electric with the football in his hands. I think he fits this Jedd Fisch offense perfectly, and I think he could break out towards the back end of his collegiate career. Denzel Boston, a guy, again, haven't seen a ton from him, looked like that dude in the spring game. And then some newcomers, Jaden Wayne, former top 100 recruit, only going into year 2, transferring in from Miami. And then Justin Harrington. This is such a chess piece in this Washington defense. A lot of different ways you can use Justin Harrington, whether he's rushing the pass or playing that nickel role or kind of playing that third linebacker as that nickel defender. Really versatile piece. I think that will be big-time value in the Big Ten. And without further ado, let's get into the top 10 list. And let's go to number 10, Jeremiah Hunter. Now, Jeremiah Hunter coming in at the number 10 player for this Washington program, I think goes to tell you how talented this Washington team is. Was one of the better wide receivers in the Pac-12 last year. When you put up over 700 receiving yards for a Cal offense, you know you're a pretty good player. And then you take a look at the career that Jeremiah Hunter has put together, over 2,000 receiving yards, 13 touchdowns, led the team with 37 first down catches in 2023. This was the go-to wide receiver for this Cal offense. There are a lot of different ways Jeremiah Hunter can beat opposing defenses, whether it's working vertically down the field, whether it's with the football in his hands. And then you look at only 7 drops in his career on 150 catches almost. That is a phenomenal number. Jeremiah Hunter, I think, has a really good chance to, be that wide receiver 1 in this Washington offense. Going to number 9, and that's going to be defensive lineman transferring in from Montana State, Sebastian Valdez. A little bit undersized to play the inside of the defensive line, especially in the Big Ten, but what he lacks in size, watching him at Montana State, he more than makes up with effort, with toughness, and athleticism. This is a guy that, wrecks havoc in the opposing offense's backfield. 17 quarterback hurries. That was second on the team for Montana State last year. Can hold up in the run game. Everybody's looking for a disruptive pass rush presence on the inside of the defensive line. I think Sebastian Valdez can be that for this Washington program heading into 2024. And if there's one question mark we have for this Washington Huskies program, it's line of scrimmage play. If Sebastian Valdez can emerge as a dominant force for Washington, that's big time for this Huskies program, because you start taking a look at the skill positions on both sides of the football. Washington's really good there. If they can play tough along the line of scrimmage, this is going to be a dangerous team in the Big Ten, going to number 8. And my personal favorite, and when I told you guys I was watching some FCS film, this was the kid I was watching, Cameron Broussard from Sacramento State. As a Michigan fan, I was really hoping Michigan would end up landing this commitment. He goes to Washington, very similar to Justin Harrington coming in from Oklahoma. Cameron Broussard is just that prototypical box safety that can give you that coverage ability, but at 6'3", 200+ pounds, he can play as that third linebacker, give you that run support. You look at where college football is going. We say this all the time. And teams are trying to put a ton of athleticism on the field on the offensive side of the football. You need guys like Cameron Broussard that can match that, but also give you some run support. I think Cameron Broussard can be that chess piece for this Washington program. I am super excited about this kid jumping up to the Power 5 level, number 7, and a guy that I just think flies under the radar for this Huskies program is Elijah Jackson. And for good reason, Jabbar Muhammad got a lot of the attention for that Washington secondary room, was one of the best cornerbacks that we saw in the country, arguably the best. Elijah Jackson on the other side played some really good football. Over 790 snaps played in 2023, a 59% completion percentage when targeted. We say this for a lot of these Pac-12 teams heading into the Big Ten. If you can play well in the Pac-12 with those quarterbacks and wide receivers, those passing attacks that we saw in the Pac-12 in 2023, as a Michigan fan myself, a Big Ten guy, these cornerbacks are going to translate just fine into the Big Ten that really struggle to push the ball down the field. Elijah Jackson played really well in the Pac-12 in 2023. I think he can be very good in 2024 in the Big Ten, going to number 6. And let's talk about another transfer in a really big pickup. And again, going back to the biggest question mark we have about this Huskies program, it's along the line of scrimmage. Drew Azzopardi is a really interesting guy. I mean, he didn't start for the first half of the season for San Diego State, takes over the last 6 games, played phenomenal. And this is a guy that at 6'7", 315 pounds, he's a big body, that's a functional athlete, really good in pass protection. If Drew Azzopardi can go from San Diego State to being a quality starting tackle for this Huskies program, that's massive. We start talking about some of the most important players on this Washington program. Drew Azzopardi from San Diego State, certainly one of those guys, going to number 5. And let's talk about a linebacker that has just played so much football for Washington. And although I don't think Alfonso is going to be a top 100 NFL draft pick, when you have experienced linebackers that have seen a lot of football, have developed those instincts, that matters. And Alfonso is one of those guys. He's going into his 6th year of college football, has played over 1,200 snaps in a very similar manner. We'll go to our number 4 player in Carson Bruner. Again, 2 guys that are not necessarily going to be top 100 NFL draft picks, but you're looking at one of the more experienced in high floor linebacker rooms that you see for Washington. You add a guy like Bynum coming in from San Jose State. I really do like Washington's linebacker room. And for as many question marks as we have about what this Washington defensive line is going to be, especially in the run game, and having multiple linebackers that have played a ton of football, have made a lot of tackles, that matters. And I think that's going to be a big story for Washington going into our top 3 players. And let's go to Will Rogers. Now, the conversation around Will Rogers, for me, it's relatively frustrating. There are a lot of people that talk about Will Rogers as just being an average quarterback. And although I'm not going to get up here and say Will Rogers is going to be a top 10 NFL draft pick, it's really hard to argue with the numbers, right? He's thrown for over 12,000 passing yards, 94 touchdowns, 28 interceptions, a 69% completion percentage. He's 39th all time in the history of college football in passing yards. He's number 2 all time in the SEC. You look at Will Rogers and say, yeah, he might not have the crazy arm talent that Michael Penix had last year. He's a damn solid quarterback at the college football level. And then you start looking at the Big Ten landscape. And I would ask you guys the question, how many quarterbacks in the Big Ten right now are we taking over Will Rogers? Because I think the list is not that long. And so I am really excited about Will Rogers. And the last thing I'd add is, I think he's a really good fit in the Jedd Fisch offense, where Jedd Fisch is not going to ask Will Rogers to make consistently high-level throws, although I think Will Rogers can make those throws. It is ball out quickly, on time, to the places it needs to be. Will Rogers, having played as much as he had, that is where he thrives, as a kind of distributor of the football, the point guard of the offense. He's not going to be a Heisman-caliber quarterback. He's going to be a damn good quarterback that fits Jedd Fisch's offense really well, and a quarterback that in the Big Ten, you can win a lot of football games with. Going to our number 2 player, and I'll say this, I might be sleeping on Efesian's prize sock. He might be the best player on this Washington team. For the people who are interested in the NFL draft, this kid's getting mocked in the first round, and for good reason. He's extremely long, gets his hands on a ton of footballs, and he tackles well. And when you have a long cornerback that can be fluid, deal with those bigger receivers, get his hands on a lot of footballs, that matters so much. And you look at what Jabbar Muhammad meant for this Washington defense in 2023, having that lockdown cornerback. I think Prysock could potentially be that for this Washington program in 2024. I am very high on him. And let's go to a player that I put him at number 1 because he's really just my guy. That's running back Jonah Coleman. I think this is one of the best running backs that you see in the country. Over 800 yards for Arizona last year, 6.8 yards per carry, 5 yards per carry after contact. And this is a guy that is averaging more rushing yards after contact than a lot of college football running backs just average purely. 46 mixed tackles forced. This is a hammer of a running back with a thick lower half that's going to keep you on schedule, can run between the tackles, can get to the second level. There's nothing that Jonah Coleman cannot do. And you start talking about what a Big Ten running back looks like, you look it up in the dictionary, you're going to see a picture of Jonah Coleman. I think he fits the Big Ten. I think he's going to be a workhorse for this Washington offense. And if that offensive line comes together, this is going to be a rushing attack that's really potent, because this is a really good running back. And you'll make no mistake about it. Like, the offense it's going to spread you out. It's going to throw the football all around the yard. But if they get a run game going with Jonah Coleman, that's what makes this Washington team dangerous. I'm really excited about this program. And again, I'm not getting up here and saying that Washington is going to win a national championship. I don't even know if I'm going to say they're going to win a Big Ten championship. There's a reason the win total is 7.5 games. This is a better team than a lot of people give credit heading into 2024. On paper, you look at this team and say, yeah, they got decimated to the NFL draft. They return a lot of good guys. They bring a lot of good football players in. Fired up for this program. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.